Okay, in today's episode, I want to teach you exactly how to get your dream job, a job that is a perfect fit for you, a job that's the exact environment that you need to succeed, and a job that you do a great job interviewing for, and you know exactly what kind of questions to ask in the interview process to make sure you land your dream fit job. Are you ready? Let's do this. First and foremost, my name is Amber Deibert. I'm a performance coach for enterprise and strategic account executives. I help with mindset and productivity to help you get out of your own way and finally reach that potential that you know you've been capable of. This is a problem that I see with so many sellers. They might be in a job that's the wrong environment for them. Maybe their manager is not a good fit for them. Maybe even the sales process is too long or too short. It's not the right fit. And I see a lot of people who I feel like it's really interesting to see all this go down. During the pandemic, we were all afraid we were going to lose our jobs. And then there was the great reshuffle. And all of a sudden, everybody was changing jobs. And then there were all the layoffs that happened. And so people have switched jobs quite a bit in the last few years. And what I'm seeing is that there are a number of people who landed in a job that is not a good fit for them. And I've had a few clients who had like a series of jobs that were not good fits. Maybe they got laid off. And there's like the trauma of being fired or let go or being part of a mass layoff. And so then they're hanging on to this new job that they have and it's not quite a good fit, but they're like, well, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to try to find something different. What if I can't find a good fit? Or maybe they have landed in a bunch of different jobs and they've all been a bad fit. So they have this like job in the past that was such a good fit for them, but then they thought that the grass was greener. And so now they've gone someplace else and the grass is not greener. And so they have no hope that they're even going to be able to find a place that the grass is greener and it's actually a better fit for them. And so they're just staying stuck in this job that's not really helping them. And they're just slowly dying. Do any of those resonate with you? For my clients who've had a track record of continually finding the wrong job, like you think, like you start interviewing for this place, you're like, this is it, this is going to be the one. And then you get there and you're like, no, it's not. It really erodes your self-trust. It erodes your ability to trust yourself that you're going to be able to find a job that's a good fit for you. So that's exactly what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how to know what kind of jobs are a good fit for you, the science behind this, why this works. And then I also am going to talk about how to do a really good job in the interview process, vetting this company to make sure it's a good fit for you. So first of all, I have past episodes of this podcast and this YouTube channel where I talk about people as plants. I like to talk about your ideal environment, and I like to think about people as plants. Different kinds of plants need different kinds of nurturing, let's say. Some plants need more light, some plants need less light. Some plants need more water, some plants need less water. Some plants need more humidity, other plants would die in the humidity. And the way I think about it is that if you're in a job that's not a good fit for you, you might be able to do your very best and you might be able to like push your way through, but if it's not a good environment, it's just so much harder. It's like being a cactus that's planted in some kind of very moist I'm sorry I said that word, very humid tropical environment, and you're rotting and you're like, I can't understand why I'm rotting. I'm doing my very best. I'm trying as hard as I possibly can. And yet I'm still rotting. What's wrong with me? It may not be that something is wrong with you. It may be that something is wrong with the environment that you're in. I learned about this. Let me just tell a quick personal story. I was at a company. I'd been there for 3 years and I had grown so much in this company. I had been promoted. I hit my first 6 figures that I'd ever had as a 20-year-old. I was so proud of myself for all the growth that I'd had in this company. And then I left on maternity leave for my very first kid. I came back and I had a new manager. My team was taken out from underneath me. I was now an IC when I'd been a manager before. And in this stage of being a new mom and trying to figure out how to navigate myself as a parent for the first time and being back in the corporate world with this new manager, I could not get myself to succeed. I was like banging my head against the wall, trying to figure out how to get promoted, how to get the projects I wanted, how to make a bigger impact. And I started really questioning my worth. For my whole career, I knew that I was a great employee. Because whenever I left a company, they would beg me to stay. They would be like, can we please double your salary and get you to stay? And so I had this idea that people loved me and I was this great employee. And then I hit this moment in my career where I wasn't loved and I wasn't appreciated and I wasn't thriving like I normally had. And I was like, I mean, I lost most of my brain in pregnancy. It's wild because when you're building a human inside of your body, it takes from a bunch of different stores in your brain and your body. And like think about like you have to create a human and all the elements that go into that being. And so a big part of it is that it sucks a lot of the fat out of your brain. And so they talk about mom brain, and it's literally you can't quite think the way that you could before because you don't have the nutrients in your brain to be able to function. And so I was just second guessing everything that I was doing. I was like, yeah, I'm probably not that great of an employee. I'm not sleeping right now. I can't think the way that I could before. Like maybe I'm just not as good as I thought I was. And I really second guessed myself. And I really started to think, was I delusional? I thought I was a good employee, but maybe I actually wasn't that good of an employee. Maybe I'm imagining something. Maybe I'm remembering it different than it was. Maybe I haven't actually been that great this entire time. And while I was in that state, I was delivering trainings. I was teaching people business skills. And I remember I was researching content for a leadership development training that I was going to deliver. And I came across this interesting article where they were talking about, is it nature or is it nurture? And they cited a study that they did. There's a third party that ranks Wall Street analysts. And this third party has a list of the top analysts. And they wanted to know, is it nature or nurture? Are these people on the top of the list because they're just inherently successful people, and no matter where you put them, they're going to be successful? Or is there something about their environment that's helping them to be successful? And so I'm going to state the facts wrong. This is not maybe the exact numbers that they gave, but they watched what happened when any one of these top analysts moved to another organization. They wanted to see, is it something about your environment or is it something about who you are? When you move to another organization, do you stay at the top of the list or do you drop? And they found that over some period of time, people who moved to another company, most of them didn't stay at the top of the list, but there was about 3% of them that did stay at the top of the list. And so they wanted to know, was there any correlation between this 3% that moved to another organization and stayed at the top of the list? And what they found is that in nearly every single case, the top analysts who moved to a new organization, changed their environment, and stayed at the top of the list, they brought their entire team with them to the new organization. They brought their environment with them to the new organization. And I remember sitting at my desk reading all about this and thinking like, I am the worst employee ever. There's no worth to me at all. And realizing it's not me. It's not me. I actually probably am a good employee, but this is not the right environment for me. This is not a manager that I'm going to thrive under. This is not a company that I'm going to thrive under. I'm like this cactus in a humid environment. I won't say the M word. And I'm rotting and I'm like trying my very hardest and I can't understand why I'm rotting. And I want you to see that for yourself too. Like, yes, there absolutely could be things that you could be doing better. Like maybe if you procrastinate less, maybe if you're more on top of your priorities, maybe if you actually plan out your day instead of like leaning into distractions. Like, yes, there are absolutely things you can do better. And if you feel like you're trying your hardest and you can't understand why you're not succeeding, it may be that this is not a great environment for you. So first things first, when we're thinking about finding our dream job, becomes really, really incredibly helpful to define what is your ideal environment. And for a lot of you, you're like, I don't know, what is my ideal environment? So here's some of the questions that I take my clients through and I like to ask them in figuring out what your ideal environment is. I like to split it into two categories. I like to think about category one being kind of the company, the culture, the sales cycle, the fit there. And then category number two is really about the manager. Because I genuinely think that 80% of your success in your workplace is who you report to and if that person is a good fit for you. They always say people don't leave companies, they leave managers. And if you don't have a manager that's a good fit, that feels supportive for what you need, which everybody needs something different, we're all different kind of plants, then it's probably not going to be a place where you're going to naturally thrive. So if you can find a place where your plant is planted in the right environment, it's going to be so much easier for you to be successful. You won't have to work so hard because you'll naturally have the support that you need to be successful. And let's not forget about prioritization, okay? You don't need to procrastinate as much as you do. Watch my other videos. I've got so many tips for you. Okay, so talking about ideal environment, when you're thinking about the company, I like to ask a bunch of questions. And some of these questions you'll be agnostic, like it doesn't really matter, that's not really a thing. But some of these questions you'd be like, oh yeah, actually that does really matter for me. So the kinds of questions you can ask yourself, and feel free to pause this and like sit down, write it out, open up your phone, like get your notes app, or even just voice transcribe this and start to brainstorm what this looks like. Questions you can ask yourself are, is there a particular size of company that's a good fit for me? Do I prefer to have a company that's more like 200 people, or do I prefer to have a company that's more like 20,000 people? Do I prefer to be in a small startup with 10 people where I get to wear a lot of different hats and have a lot of variety? Or do I like to kind of know everybody who works there and it's more 200 people? Or do I prefer to have lots of support and resources from a large, gigantic enterprise company? Another question you can ask yourself is, what's the work environment? Is this a hybrid workplace? Is this a remote workplace? Is this an in-office workplace? And knowing yourself of, do I do better? Am I energized when people are around me? This goes back to your work like you work out profile. I've got videos about that too. My proprietary process for figuring out how you work best based on how you like to exercise. Am I the kind of person who likes to exercise around other people? And so working with other people is really supportive to me, and I feel fired up and ready to go, and like we're in it together when I'm surrounded by people. Or am I more of like a solitary exerciser and I prefer to just go on runs by myself, and I actually do really well if I'm working from home without the distractions of an office? You can also ask yourself questions about the stage of the company. Is this an early stage company? Maybe they're in their seed round, maybe they're in Series C, maybe they're publicly traded. Does that matter to you? You can ask questions about the sales cycle. Who am I selling to? Is there a particular persona that you like to sell to? Of like, I love selling to finance, or I love selling to other salespeople, or I love selling into IT. Maybe there's something about the product. So maybe your product is a transformational product, or maybe your product is more like the plumbing of a company that you're selling into the company. Maybe there's something about what your product does and the results that it gets. Maybe it's my product allows people to work less hours and have better productivity. Or maybe it's something of my product supports the bottom line of a company. And so it's really easy for me to sell this product because I know that if you buy my product, you're going to save money, or you're going to increase your revenue, or it's going to make your life better as a business owner. Maybe there's something about the sales cycle. Maybe you prefer a really long strategic sales cycle where you get to get very deep relationships and you're multi-threading and you're creating a really intense POV for this client. Or maybe you prefer shorter sales cycles. Maybe those long ones feel too long and you're not getting enough at-bats, you're not getting enough success, and so you feel like you're drowning in it, and you prefer a shorter, like 6-month sales cycle or 9-month sales cycle. Is there something about the company? Do you want to work for a mission-driven company, or does that not matter to you? Is there something about the culture that you really like? So all of these questions can be really helpful for you as you're defining the type of company that you want to work for, the type of product that you're selling, who you're selling to, what that sales cycle looks like. And then on the other hand, the category number 2 would be, who is your manager, and what kind of a manager do you need to be best supported? When you're asking yourself these questions, I like to think to the past. I like to look at like past experiences and ask myself, who were the best people that I ever reported to, worked with, led me, whatever that looks like, and who were the worst? What really worked for me and what really didn't work for me? And when I'm looking at this, I try to keep the judgment out of it. I don't think of as like, these are bad managers and these are good managers, because all of us are different kinds of plants. Like the cactuses might really love the manager that you hated, but you're more of a tropical plant. And so you needed more support than what that person was able to give you. But somebody who wants to work autonomously and wants to be left alone, they might have loved that kind of a manager. So it's not good or bad. We're not judging people here, but we're just looking at, for me, what has been the most worthwhile. And I love to look at past coaches that you've had, past leaders, professors, teachers, managers, anybody kind of in a leadership position over you, and ask yourself, of the ones that I resonated with the most and I worked with the best, what did they do? How did they support me? What kind of nurturing did I get? What kind of water did I get? What kind of light did I get? What kind of fertilizer did I get? And then of the ones that didn't work well, why didn't it work well? What was it that they did that didn't resonate with me? Were they insecure? Were they micromanaging? Were they not giving me the support that I needed? I didn't get enough support. Were they trying to contact me too much and I needed more autonomy and that wasn't who I am. So just make it a list of like do's and don'ts for you of who you are. So as you go through this exercise and define what your ideal environment is, and some of this is just a guess, right? This is a hypothesis. So like we don't have to get this exactly right, but like this is what we think is going to be a pretty good fit based on our track record and like what we've experienced before. As you define this image of what your ideal environment is, this is where manifesting comes in. And if you've heard me before, you know that I'm woo curious. I'm not totally bought into it. I'm a little bit skeptical. But what happens in your brain is you have a part of your brain called the ARAS, Ascending Reticular Activating System. And I'm sure I said that wrong. This is a part of your brain that filters out information. Your brain has to process something like 11 million pieces of information every second. 11 million pieces of information are coming in from your 5 senses that your brain has to process. And what it can process is about 50. Isn't that crazy? And so there's this specific part of your brain, the ARAS, that is filtering out information that's not relevant. This is the part of your brain that's activated when you buy a new car or you're looking at buying a new car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. Before, you didn't ever see that car because it wasn't important. Your brain was filtering it out. But now that you bought that car, all of a sudden you're like, everybody drives this car. I didn't realize how many people drive this car. And so the reason that you start seeing it is because your brain stops filtering it out. I remember this happened to me when I was living in San Francisco. San Francisco is well known as having more dogs than children. It's not a real like place where there's a lot of kids. And I became pregnant. And literally, I became pregnant and all of a sudden I saw pregnant women everywhere. I was like, where are they coming from? I've never seen so many pregnant women. And I think it was because my brain was like, okay, you're pregnant. This is relevant. I'm going to start pointing out all the women who are pregnant. So what is really cool is that when you make this image of the type of company you're looking for and the type of manager you're looking for, your brain is going to start going out and finding evidence for all those companies. It becomes a lot less difficult. You might be like, I don't even know if my dream job's out there. It seems wild that I could find something like this. But as soon as you have a clear picture of what you're looking for, this part of your brain, the ARAS, is not going to filter it out. You'll start to see those opportunities. You can find what you're looking for. This happens all the time. I remember I would be sitting in my apartment in San Francisco and I would sit there and think like, oh, this is the worst. I have to walk up 3 flights of stairs and parking is so hard and I've got to go so far and blah, blah, blah. And I'd think about all the things that I hated. And then I would like right there in that moment, and I'd find tons of evidence of why it was the worst. And right there in that moment, I'd be like, I wonder if I can find any evidence of why this is the best. And so I'd sit there and think, I'm like, well, I'm right next to the Panhandle. I get a walk to Cal Academy. This is the best. I can run to the beach from my house. Like, how amazing is this? This is the best thing ever. And like, I love that I get to walk everywhere. What an awesome experience. The trees are beautiful. Like in that exact moment, you can find evidence for whichever side of the jury that you want to find. So make a clear picture of the type of company you're looking for. And then the science shows that you'll start to spot it all the time. And then it helps with your decision making too, because now that you have this clear image, you can compare this picture to an opportunity that presents itself and be like, how much do they overlap? Are they the same or are they different? Now that I know what I'm looking for, it makes the decision process a lot easier because I can be like, oh yeah, this is like a 98% fit. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about here, you've defined your ideal environment. Your brain is going to work for you, starting to find that environment and find those job opportunities. The last piece is, how do you vet this company in the interview process? I talked a lot about this in my last video, talking about the mindset that I want you to go into these interviews with. And a lot of this will help of being self-aware, knowing yourself. Once you've defined the kind of manager that you're looking for, it becomes much easier to ask questions in the interview to find out, is this the manager that I'm looking for? Now that I know what I'm looking for, I can find out, is this person that? So if you're the kind of person who needs a lot of autonomy, your dream is that your manager gives you the assignment and just trusts you to get it done. If you need anything, you'll reach out, but otherwise they just leave you alone. Then you know that about yourself. This is how I work best and this is how I'm most supported. You can ask questions in the interview process to find out from your manager or the hiring manager, how do you interact with your team? What are the cadences that you have to connect with your team? How do you like to communicate best with your team? How do you like your team to communicate to you what they're working on and what's going on? If this person responds and says, well, I like to have a daily check-in and I meet with you every single day to find out what's going on, and we have 17 forecast calls every single week, then you're going to know, okay, this is not a fit for me. And that's the best news. I know it can feel like, oh no, I've just lost out on another opportunity. But the worst case scenario is that you get in a role that's not a good fit for you. And then you're miserable, your manager's miserable, your team is miserable, your company, like nobody benefits if you get in a role that's not a good fit for you. So it's so great to be able to vet this in the interview process and find out ahead of time that this is not a good fit for you. If you're the kind of person who wants a lot of support, you want to know that your manager has your back. You need a lot more light and water than most people need. You want to feel like they can support you. Then asking these same questions of, how do you like to communicate with your team? What's your preferred mode of communication? How do you support your team? What do you do if somebody's struggling? You can ask these kinds of questions and hear their answers to find out, is this person a good fit for me? Are they going to be able to support me? I'm the kind of person that I want to be able to call my manager at 3 p.m. and just like use them as a thought partner to say, okay, here's what I'm thinking. This is my plan. Does this check out with you? Does this sound okay? And we just have a quick 10-minute conversation and then they're done. And I need to know, are they someone who can support that? Are they someone who's going to be able to be there for me and be that support that I need? And if they are, then I'm going to thrive. I talked about this in my last video, but the only job that your manager is trying to do is figure out how to motivate you. That's it. And so if you can just be very self-aware and be very vulnerable and say, if you want to get the best out of me, this is what I need, they will be so delighted. The kind of manager that you want to work for is self-aware enough to know that their only job is to support people. The kind of managers you don't want to work for are the ones that are insecure and they're just trying to fluff up their ego to feel better about themselves. But if you are vulnerable and you say this to a hiring manager, they are going to start salivating. They're going to be like, you are exactly what I want on my team. I can't believe that you're so self-aware. I can't believe you're just laying it out for me of exactly who you are and exactly how you're motivated. I've talked to so many hiring managers and so many managers and asked them, like, if somebody said this to you in an interview, what would you do? They'd be like, I would hire them on the spot. That's exactly what I need. So the kind of managers that are really into developing their people and really care about their people will love it when you just lay it out for them exactly what you need. I'm the kind of person that needs a lot of autonomy. I want you to trust me to get my job done. If I have any questions, I'm going to reach out to you. Otherwise, you can just know and trust that I am doing my very best. Or I'm the kind of person who needs a lot of connection with you in order to make sure that I'm going on the right direction. I need that thought partner to be able to just talk out loud and make sure I'm on the right path. And once I get that, I'm going to be off and running and off to the races. They will love hearing this from you. I always say that good managers play checkers. They move each piece the same way. They give feedback to everybody the same way. They promote everybody the same way. They praise everybody the same way. But great managers play chess. Great managers know that the pawn moves differently than the knight, and the queen needs to be praised in public while the king needs to be praised in private. And the great managers and the people that you want to work for are the ones who understand how each piece moves. So asking questions like these in the interview process to find out how they think about themselves as a manager, how they manage their team, can be incredibly helpful and help you know if they are the kind of manager that's going to be a good fit for you. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you actually sat down and wrote out some of these things. If you didn't, you can always come and do a coaching session with me. You can find all about my programs. You can get on my newsletter, all at mentalmastery.com. And if not, I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.